All right, moving on. I assume you've had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the April meeting. Any additions, corrections? Seeing none, then the minutes will stand approved as presented. Trey, I think, is on Zoom. So we're going to open our public hearings and have him do some legal stuff.
All right, thank you for allowing me to appear by Zoom here. Tonight's first hearing will be pursuant to the quasi-judicial hearing procedure set out in 197.797. At the start of the hearing, commission members shall be asked to disclose any ex parte communications, conflict of interest, or bias. The applicable substantive criteria for this hearing will be addressed in the staff report. Testimony may be in oral or written form, but must be directed towards the criteria outlined in the staff report, the comprehensive plan, or the city's land use regulations. Any issue raised must be accompanied by statements and evidence sufficient to allow the commission and parties to an opportunity to respond. Please note that failure to raise an issue, including constitutional issues, by the close of the hearing will prevent an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. With that, you may proceed.
All right, any questions about the procedures? All right, then we will open planning file A-25-02 and ask the planning commissioners if there's any ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias that needs to be disclosed. Sir.
I know the renters in the house on the property. Is that
Will that affect your decision making?
no.
Okay. All right, then.
Need to add anything else to that?
I'm sorry, I heard I didn't hear all of the statement that was disclosed.
I said I know the property that rents the home that's been there for a while, but that's it. It's not going to affect my decision in any way.
You know the people that rent it, or
Yep.
I'm sorry. All right.
Yep, just the renters.
And
not
do you feel
property owners.
And you feel you can properly and adequately separate that from your duty as a commissioner?
Yes.
Okay.
Right then, we will turn it over to staff for a staff report.
Okay, before I do the staff report, I have been asked to do a really quick reminder of when we do comments of planning commissioners, please speak really close to the mic and make sure that the mic is on. We're having a little bit of a difficult time doing some of the planning commission minutes because it's not capturing all of the audio because not all of the mics are on all the time. So if we can just be diligent about that, that would be amazing. I'm also at fault at that on a regular basis. So I've been yelled at myself. So with that, before you tonight is a proposed annexation. It is for a property that is on Southwest 5th Street. It's 311666 Southwest 5th. The property is currently within the county, within our urban growth boundary. It has a comprehensive plan designation of residential mixed density. Upon annexation, the only assigned available zoning would be residential mixed density, and the applicants have identified accepting of that zoning. So there is no proposed comprehensive plan map or zoning map amendment. And because they're accepting of the zoning, there's no additional studies required for facilities for utility purposes or anything like that. The property is contiguous to city boundaries on the east and west side of the property. And it is bounded by properties that are within the same zoning or comprehensive plan designation. And the general area is somewhat developed with the subdivision to the east and large lot residential development surrounding the rest of the property. And so based off of the fact that it is in a serviceable area with utilities already in South 5th Street to be able to connect to, it's in a general urbanized area that can continue urbanization, and it's contiguous to city boundaries. It's eligible for annexation. All of the findings in great detail are provided in the agenda packet for review. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Yeah.
I've got a couple questions on the applicant's narrative. There is a comment about continuation of special districts. Does that apply to this property?
The only district that I know of in this property would be like the fire district. So there's a continuation of that district, but other than that,
Okay, so they're requesting to dissolve any special districts.
I am not aware of any special districts, but as part of the annexation, they would be annexing into it. So that is standardized language within the ORS. And is so as part of the process of annexation, if there is a special district that is subject to county jurisdiction but not city jurisdiction through the
So that's
annexation
what it's referring
process,
to.
it will be resolved at that process.
And in the next line, says that it's currently being served by city services.
I don't know that their city services are right out front. I can't answer the question whether they've got service to date. The only thing they would have would be water, because sewer just came through there a couple years ago. So if they don't have water, it's on a well. But city services are out in Fifth Street, both sewer and water.
Yeah, it just surprised me because I would be surprised if it served.
So it's served by city roads and it is able to be served by sewer and water.
By the roads, yeah.
Yeah. So it could just be the,
Yeah,
way that
the
it's
city has
written.
jurisdiction of the roadway up to the bridge.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, any other questions? But either one of those really doesn't affect our decision, correct?
No.
Okay.
even if they do have services currently, that would have been one of those things that would have gone in front of the city council to allow them to connect as like an emergency and then require an annexation after the fact. So even if they are connected, the annexation is the remedy to connection.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, with that, then we'll open public testimony. Invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward. Sign in, state your names, please. You don't have to if you don't want to.
It's just you guys.
You can come up here with me too. We'll be together. I'm Jennifer Cable. This is my husband.
Joe Cable.
Yeah. We are the property to the south, right on the property line. I can answer your question about utilities. They have none. So we're all on well and septic. The only thing we have is power. So we're actually, we want to know, I don't know if you can explain this now, but we want to know why they're wanting an annex. Do we have any idea of that?
So can I interrupt for just a second? I assumed you were the applicant.
Nope.
Okay,
You're
so,
the neighbor.
okay, so then,
Go through a quick procedure really quick.
so since the applicant isn't here, we don't have we'll just jump over those parts. Are you testifying in favor of or in opposition of the application?
We're not here to oppose anything. We just want to express our concern regarding if they want to annex into the city because they plan on developing for any reason. Our concern is the water issue. We got a tremendous amount of water that runs through the ravines on the backside of our property, comes from the property to the south of us, runs through the property at 31666. And we don't want to have any kind of a flood issue.
Okay,
And if
More
somebody,
flooding.
more flooding,
Yeah.
if somebody, a developer was to come in and say, fill that ravine in or build up the property of,
Now
you
we have
know,
an issue on our property and all the other properties, Vaughn
Okay.
Street, the guy across the street, everything.
so just a matter of process. What we have before us tonight is simply the annexation. We have no clue if there's going to be development.
all right.
That's where, we don't oppose it being annexed in the city. I think it'd be great for someone to have
Okay.
city services. But our biggest thing is if they are going to do some sort of development, is there going to be another one where we come again?
Yes.
Okay, that's.
Okay.
So generally speaking, annexation is the step that anybody can apply for, and you do not have to have a development plan. You can just want to do it because you want to connect to city services. Or you can do it because you want to do a development or sell it to a developer. We do not ask
Yeah.
people's personal intents. So what will happen is if the annexation moves forward, and somebody does choose to propose a subdivision or a development in the future, there will be an additional public notice that goes to you regarding that proposal specifically so that you can see what they're proposing. Generally speaking, though, per Oregon drainage law, any development, it cannot affect how the current natural drainage flows,
So-
basically.
And we're aware of that,
Yeah.
but as you stated before, that area has been somewhat developed.
Right.
And across the street from our home, there's a sidewalk where there used to be a free-flowing ditch. And because of that, they put a culvert in the road, which is putting a lot of that water, that's where a lot of that water that's in the ravines is coming from. And there's a gentleman there, I'm sure the city Public Works Department's probably aware of him pretty well. His place takes on a couple of feet of water. We just don't want to see that happen.
Well, like I said, we don't know what their plan is. They haven't
Okay.
disclosed it to me personally. And I would be the planner that would be reviewing it. But anything that does come forward of a property of this size, unless it's somebody that's just building like a duplex or something really small,
Mhm.
will receive another public notice. You will be informed of what's going on, and you will be able to ask a bunch of questions about what the development is doing and how they're going to address those concerns at that time.
So if this does get annexed into the city, we're not gonna be ones that they're knocking on our door saying, hey, you need to annex.
Nope.
Because now the 60 acres behind us is now annexed. It's been annexed in the city a long time ago. Just sold that, and they're gonna leave it as is, the people that bought the property behind us.
You get to stay exactly how you
Now
want
it's
to.
really checkered.
Yeah.
So that's what we were wondering.
The city does not force annexation of private
Okay.
property unless there is some sort of a dire situation where you can't service your property because of your septic or something like that. We won't be coming and annexing your property or forcing it.
Okay,
Then we're okay.
well, appreciate your guys' time.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't want to miss the opportunity just in case.
No problem.
Okay, seeing no other testimony, then we will close the public hearing. All further discussion will be amongst planning commissioners and staff. So any concerns about this annexation?
So, it seems to meet all the criteria, so I don't have any concerns.
Straightforward.
All right, any further questions for staff or clarifications? All right, do you feel the criteria has been met?
Yes,
Okay, then is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll move. I move the planning commission recommended approval for annexation A-25-02 to the city council based on the written findings in the staff report and direct staff to draft an order of recommendation incorporating the findings and conditions of approval.
I'll second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? All those then in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Moving on to our second hearing. DCA-25-01. Trey, do you need to introduce this?
I do not. It's not
Okay.
it's not a quasi judicial hearing.
Okay, so then we'll turn it over to staff.
So this is a development code amendment for items to implement our housing production strategy. This should not be new to any of you all at this point. We have been working on this for over a year with our consultants that are on with us tonight. And this is the final steps to move forward with the adoption of the code at this point. So we have put together a staff report that tried to summarize as simple as we can kind of what we're doing. There's a lot that we have gone through over the last year plus. And we are going to have our consultants one last time in front of you all to do a presentation that sort of summarizes everything and finalizes where we're at, and then go through the formal public hearing process to get Planning Commission's recommendation on the process. As was identified in the staff report, we did not draft this in a bubble. This was done with lots of input from the City Council, lots of input from the Planning Commission along the way, as well as a project advisory committee. And all of the recommendations in front of you are recommendations that were put forth by the project advisory committee at the end. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Brandon and Darcy, and they are going to do the talking on what's all in this thing and summarize it up for us pretty nicely. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. Hi, everybody, again. For those of you who don't know who I am at this point, I'm Crawford. I'm a planner with MIG, and appreciate the introduction, Kelly. So don't need to repeat that. And yeah, Darcy is here with me as well. And just a heads up before I get too far, my internet has been a little spotty the last couple of days, and it's been particularly a little unreliable for video meetings. So in case I freeze up or things get laggy, I might have to turn my camera off or maybe tap Darcy or Kelly in to kind of keep things moving along in case things get a little choppy. But so far, things are going smooth. So just let me know in case I freeze up. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so far, can people hear and see me all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. And can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So as Kelly mentioned, this will be a pretty quick overview of the project overall and our recommendations. So just kind of sum things up. So this should all look pretty familiar to folks by now. So quick agenda, we'll just go over the overall project background and recap some of the major decisions along the way. And then we'll summarize the overall code updates and how those code updates implement the housing production strategy or some of the housing production strategy actions. And then we'll briefly talk about statewide planning goal compliance and how these recommendations are consistent with the planning goals. So quick overview and background. As you know, the housing production strategy was just adopted a couple years ago, 2023, and this project is primarily intended to implement the code related items from the HPS. This project is specifically funded through a Department of Land Conservation Development technical assistance grant. As I mentioned, the overall purpose is to update the code, Lebanon Development Code, to implement the HPS, but also to facilitate overall housing production, affordability, and choice, and that includes a handful of other code related items that the city had previously identified, as well as just some state statute compliance items. So those are just a couple other things that weren't necessarily a part of the HPS. So project outcomes, of course, to support new housing options and opportunities, to simplify the city's housing regulations, and to ensure that the code is consistent with state statute as it is concerned with housing rules. So just a quick recap on the overall project schedule, timeline, and where we are. This project has been going on for a little over a year, kicked off March 2024. And you can see here, we are now all the way at pretty much at the finish line. And as you know, this is the Planning Commission hearing. The final step, as we will mention, is the City Council hearing, which will be in June. So there will be about one more month left on this timeline that isn't shown here, but as you can see, where the end is in sight. So to quickly go over the recap in a little more detail. First phase of the project was the code review and audit, and that's where we identified the areas of the code that should be updated based on the HPS and other project goals, and that was reviewed by the Project Advisory Committee and the Planning Commission and City Council at a work session last summer. Then the second phase was drafting the actual code updates based on the findings from the code review and audit. And that first draft was really just focused on the high priority HPS items. And that one was reviewed again by the PAC at the second PAC. Again, discussed and reviewed with the Planning Commission City Council at another work session. I believe that one was last fall or winter. Then we went through one more round of draft updates and review, this time focusing on the medium and low priority HPS actions, as well as some state statute consistency items. This was all reviewed at the third advisory committee meeting, and then they were also carried over to the third Planning Commission City Council work session, along with some code cleanup and consistency amendments. And that was all bundled up and again reviewed at that third work session, and also reviewed at the fourth advisory committee meeting, which that all just took place a couple months ago. So that's a quick recap there. So just to quickly go over the high priority HPS action were addressed part of this project. First one being single unit homes that implemented HPS action 1.1. The second was the cottage cluster standards. Was HPS action 1.2, had quite a bit of discussion over that one. However, I think we've arrived at a place that everyone is satisfied with. Third one was to remove the city's current infill standards. That was a pretty simple one and didn't stir up much conversation or pushback from anyone. Fairly straightforward. And to update the manufactured dwelling park standards for consistency with state statute. And that was mainly focused around updates for clear and objective standards, but there were also a couple others to comply with recent legislation in the last few years pertaining to manufactured dwelling parks. So some of the kind of secondary or lower priority HPS items and project goals included allowing tiny homes, specifically in cottage clusters and manufactured dwelling parks, and as ADUs that implemented HPS Action 1.6. We recommended some code updates for affordable housing bonuses, and that was HPS Action 2.4. And some of those affordable housing bonus updates kind of overlap with state statute consistency, so things the city had to do anyway, but a handful of them were not required by the state, but still addressed in the HPS. And then we also addressed a few other state statute consistency things, such as updating certain terms just to be consistent with how the state refers to the different housing types, and making sure that the definitions are consistent with state definitions, just to avoid any confusion and potential conflicts down the road. And then finally, those kind of code cleanup items that I mentioned earlier. And that was just kind of a list of things the city had addressed in prior years that then should be included as part of this adoption package. So quick overview on statewide planning goal compliance. So the three main planning goals that we kind of ensure that these code updates are consistent with are goal 1, citizen involvement, goal 2, land use planning, and goal 10, housing, of course. So few things that helps this project and this adoption package meet goal 1 was bringing you all along through these planning commission and city council hearings and the work sessions that were open to the public and open for public comment. There was also public notice that was published to interested parties and in the local newspaper to inform the community about these updates. And then, of course, there was the project advisory committee, which really helped guide the recommendations, and that advisory committee was broadly representative of the community and stakeholder interests. So then there was also goal 2, land use planning. We ensure that these updates are consistent with goal 2 by just following the general procedures and legislative land use process consistent with ORS. We coordinated with, when I say we, I mainly mean Kelly and the planning department coordinated with other city departments and ensured that these updates are consistent with existing local plans and policies and DLCD and other state rules, and that it's supported by the comprehensive plan policies, the applicable comp plan policies. And finally, for goal 10, these updates meet goal 10 by overall expanding housing choices across zones, such as cottage clusters and ADUs and manufactured dwellings, removing regulatory barriers for infill housing, just by removing the overall special standards for infill housing that actually improves chances for infill development. And then just general alignment with cities' housing needs and strategic planning. And the amendments also align with city's housing policy and planning framework, similar to the comp plan consistency. So that's fairly broad overview of the planning goal compliance. So next steps is to reach a planning commission recommendation for city council. And then the city council adoption hearing is scheduled for June 11th, so in about a few weeks. And I'll also note that we received one written public comment for this hearing. And there's fairly detailed suggestions relating to changing some language in the proposed code modifications, and we appreciate some of those comments, and they were again mostly focused on kind of clarifying language, and there weren't very many substantive suggested changes. That being said, we recommend not incorporating those changes that were addressed in the public comment, mainly because what you all have in front of you as a part of the packet is what was really reviewed and approved by the project advisory committee, whereas all these changes that were part of the public comment weren't opportunity to be reviewed by the advisory committee. So it's something, these are changes that the city could potentially revisit at another time, but we would just generally not recommend incorporating kind of at this late stage in the adoption process. So with that, I will open it up for questions, unless Kelly or Darcy have any other comments to add I've missed.
Okay, any questions? I guess I did not receive the letter.
It's actually in the packet as an attachment. It's
Don't
at
have
the
it.
very back of the packet.
My last page is or the, yeah,
Flip back a little bit more.
no, I went clear through it and I don't have it.
It's where all the red is. Isn't it?
Yeah.
The page you're on, I think.
Okay,
Bottom, it says the rock.
what page?
There's 13 of them.
So
Oh, yeah, I've got that.
Yes, that.
So if you
Yeah.
go back to the beginning, it has more of them.
So, unless I didn't recognize it as a
Didn't
letter.
She provided a 13 page,
I don't have it.
maybe a little bit more than that.
Oh, no,
Well.
okay.
It's at the end. It should be
It
right
should
after
be
the
after that.
35.
Yeah.
So I don't, there's nothing there.
It's all this stuff again, Dawn. It's all this.
Oh, I thought that was,
Yeah, so she starts off with.
okay, I thought that was part of the staff report.
No. So here's her starting letter.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
there you go.
My apologies. I assumed that was part of the staff report. All right, any questions or concerns? Sure.
I apologize, I know I'm a little late to the game, so, but here they are. On page 30, it talks about ownership of low-income housing has to be either a government or a religious organization, and I was not, it's under 1619.
120.
A2.
Mhm.
And I was not clear what the intent of section B was in the sense that if a non-religious, nonprofit corporation wanted to come in and build affordable housing, why?
So section 1619-120, the affordable housing on nonprofit, on non-residential public lands. This is the section, as you can see, it relates to Senate Bill 8. So section A is the applicability associated with the implementation of Senate Bill 8. Those are the very specific groups or organizations that are eligible for implementation of Senate Bill 8, which is now being incorporated in our code. And so if those groups or organizations fall under the applicability of this section, then they shall follow the standards in section B. If there's organizations that don't fall under that ownership or that applicability, then they are not eligible to develop housing on non-residential lands or public lands. They have to do it in the appropriate zoning, and then they would fall under the traditional zoning standards.
So this is a state law that was implemented and we're incorporating it. This is
Correct.
not a Lebanon nuance.
Nope.
So if I don't like it, I can.
Yes, you can.
Got it. Okay. Reading the manufactured housing section, I got confused because they said if there's flammable storage, gotta be 14 feet away instead of 10 feet away. I didn't know what that meant. Does that mean if you have a can of gas in your garage, that you've gotta be 14 feet away versus 10 feet between this, and how that would at all be?
So all of that is largely carryover from our old code into our new code, and I'm assuming that the flammable storage is talking about sometimes it's heated with propane or something like that. And in that situation, then those types of things have to be further removed from the property. We're not going to go in and police what people have stored in their garage units, but it's, you know, when you have a set of housing that is close knit to each other, and, you know, the history of how those housing units have often, when a fire starts, it spreads quickly. You have those additional standards to say if you have something hazardous, keep it further away. So,
I saw that they changed family to household, but I didn't immediately definition of household as I seen family. So I just wanted to make sure somewhere in there was household.
so family was removed because, again, of a state law change. And household is basically those individuals that are living within the house, that are operating as a unit. So it could be people that are renting individual rooms. And that is defined also within state law if it's not covered in explicitly within our development code.
Okay, household is defined in state law. Okay, that's all I was looking for. I'm having trouble understanding the parking requirements in the cluster home, specifically the part about the 10-foot setback for parking. And I wasn't quite sure if that included the driveway or what was intended at the parking. It confused me. I'm not opposed or for. I'm really confused about what exactly that meant.
Where are you reading that?
And excuse me, I'm not sure if the mic's on. I'm having a real tough time hearing the question.
Okay, oh, sorry about that.
Thanks,
Red
Jay.
light comes on.
Red light means on.
I should ask for the technology tutoring before I start it.
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Okay, I did not understand the 10-foot setback for parking, exactly what that meant in the cottage cluster. And I was just trying to envision what that actually meant. Was that the driveway space to a garage, or was it something else?
If I remember correctly, I think it's the setback from the property line.
Well,
Trying to
So if
navigate,
they
but
don't,
it
Are you talking
also
about
for,
here? So are you talking about on page 6 of 35?
I don't know where it was. I did not keep that note, so I can keep that note and ask later again. It was just something that was confusing to me, that a 10-foot setback on what I had seen parking.
So there's a requirement that says cottage clusters for all front, rear, and street side setbacks may be reduced to 10 feet, which is a reduction of, like, the rear setback, which was originally 20 feet, is now can be 10. Street side setback had to be a requirement of 15, now it's 10.
I'll find it and just send you an email. It was confusing to me. And I have a brief weigh-in on the red lines. Those seem to be between the word shall and must, a lot of them.
Oh, I got
Oh,
what you,
okay.
so there's a section here that says off-street parking shall not be located within 10 feet of any other property line except alley property lines. And driveways shall have aisles permitted 10 feet from other property lines. 15 of 35.
Where are you seeing that, Kelly?
It's at the very bottom of page 15 of 35 of our proposed code updates.
So does the property line include the right-of-way line, or is it that distinguished by private property
It's
lines?
distinguished by private property line.
Okay, so what you're telling me is your driveway can't be within 10 feet of your neighbor's property on either side.
So the parking spaces shall not be located within 10 feet of a property line, basically.
Okay, I got it now. I was not catching the context that the right-of-way line was something distinct, and so I was having trouble visualizing that.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna jump to the red lines. A lot of it seemed to be a shall versus must language thing. So I considered, well, which is better? And I think shall is better for technical stuff, but must is more clear and more plain to the public. My opinion is that the public should be able to pick up the zoning code, read it, so I say stick with the most direct language, including the word must.
So generally speaking, I appreciate your commentary. It goes back and forth with what she chooses to use of shall versus must in how she writes it back and forth in here. Shall is a legal term that is sometimes appropriate to be used of you when it is absolutely you shall do this because it is a legal requirement either through the state, through the federal requirement, or the city is explicitly saying this is an absolute. Must is of the same caliber, right? They are generally interchangeable. And in reading through the commentary that was provided by Ms. LaRock, completely appreciate the effort that was put into it. A lot of the commentary is style. And when you're looking at style, the city does have the deference to be able to adopt the code the way that the city feels is most appropriate, which is where the project advisory committee has reviewed the language and had the opportunity to comment and make those modifications. Generally speaking, shall and must have the same level of weight. And so there's going to be those points of interchangeability. Just like should or may is going to be interchangeable in circumstances as well. So,
And Kelly,
Yeah.
if I could add, I mean, shall is more of a legal concept, must is more of a moral concept. So in most ordinances or statutes, you're going to see the term shall being used more than must.
Well, personally, for me, you know, as much as I appreciate the comments and as much sense as they make in a lot of cases, I wouldn't be comfortable approving it unless it went through the committee first. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
Kelly, on page 6 of the real staff report,
Yeah.
policy 42 and 43 are identical. Is that intended?
Maybe. Probably not. But, you know, I liked the policy so much, I listed it twice and gave it a number.
Kelly's not perfect.
Thanks.
Cut and paste really works.
I'd have to go back and look at the differential between policy 42 and 43, but even if you cut out one, I'm just saying the same thing twice. So I'm not perfect.
Glad to know that. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I move that the planning commission Commission recommend approval of development code amendment ECA 25-01 to the city council based on the written findings.
Do I just start that
I
over?
Yes, because I even reminded you all. I'm going to punish you
Okay.
for it.
I just realized, I'm so sorry. Start again. I move that the planning commission recommend approval of development code amendment DCA 25-01 to the city council based on the written findings in the staff report and direct staff to draft an order of recommendation incorporating the findings and conditions of approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all those then in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So then with that, we are done with this portion of our update, I mean. But I would like to thank our consultants,
Yes.
our
Yes.
staff. Tina and Lori was both part of the task force, so appreciate your time and effort in that. And so with that, we are done with that part.
Thank you, Brandon and Darcy. We'll see you in 1 month.
Thank you all. Yeah, and appreciate all your input along the way. So have a good evening.
All right. So we can skip citizens' comments. We're a little short of citizens here tonight. Commission business.
Currently, we have no items in June. So happy start of the summer. And another bit of fun news. This is your last meeting in this room.
Oh, good.
So we are officially moving, if all of the move goes well. I guess I should knock on wood and not jinx anybody about that. We're officially moving over to the library's community room. We have built a lovely dais for you all, have new chairs. So it will be a brand new experience over there, new audio, same visuals. We're stealing it from here. But it'll be a general better room and environment for the public, we think, and I think overall audio purposes for the planning commission as well. So we are making that move after this meeting pretty much. So I'm literally hanging up signs once we're done here. And other than that, say goodbye to Ron. You guys aren't going to miss him, so it's not going to be that big of a deal.
He's not going to be far away.
So much
You know what, I may just come.
Well, good.
Yeah, I think I'll come and just monitor. Just monitor.
Bring some popcorn.
I have nothing else unless you guys have
All right.
anything for me.
So I have got, and probably you guys have too, a lot of inquiry. What's going on out by Walgreens? Yeah, so,
Tractor Supply is going to Walgreens. I think that we talked about it the last time. I'm gonna throw something at you.
Construction.
Tractor Supply is going over by just on the north side of the Walgreens, which is closing, as we all know, or has already closed. And then we have also had inquiries about sort of relocating where the car wash that was previously approved by the Planning Commission, north-ish of the Tractor Supply, to where the Dairy Queen site previously was approved. So there you go.
so is the car wash still on?
I think it's a different user or a different owner at this point, and they are still looking at the alternative location next to where the Dairy Queen previously was, but.
Dairy Queen?
Oh, you're gonna have to help me out with that. Dottie's? Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah, across from.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, a church purchased that for a community youth center or something like that.
Well, the other question I'm getting almost daily is what's going to happen with the Sherry's building?
Nothing is definitive or provided to the city officially yet, so I can't directly
That's kind of
comment
what I
on
tell
that.
them too.
Yeah. And then one thing I guess to note, is that the Head Start, in Lebanon is closing from our understanding. So, that is another bit of change of businesses. So the funding at the federal level is leaving. So. Yes. Yeah.
It would be a beautiful daycare center.
Yes. So,
Is that the one on South Main?
yeah. There's a lot of funding out there. So if anybody, wants a hobby to take care of a whole bunch of kids, go for it.
So fun.
We are officially a childcare desert in Lynn County, so.
All right, anything else to come before the planning commission? Seeing none, we are adjourned.